All right, folks, we're back. And it is Wednesday. Glad to be back here in the studios again today. Folks, this is your host. Who is Radio Strongman? Kim Wade. I'm coming to you live from WYAB 1039 FM. Well, folks, we are back. You can hear my voice. I got a little draining going on here. When you're around 10 grandkids, five grands and 5 great grands, somebody's going to give you something. It ain't just a hug. Anyway, we went to a public pool there in Dallas and actually went to a lake. Anyway, I started getting the sniffles and had to take off. I want to thank Chip Matthews for sitting in for me. Folks, please give Chip your consideration when you go to the polls on June 3rd. Uh-oh. Hold on here. On June 3rd, he's running for mayor of Canton, Mississippi. And I am not running for mayor of Jackson. I've thrown my support behind Rodney DePriest. We're going to be talking more about that, but first, because it is Wednesday, and as we have to do here at WYAB, certainly on the Kim Wade Show, we want to remind you, we want to implore you, we want to exhort you that it's back to Christ Wednesday. Let us go back to that time when we first believed, when we first received the invitation for salvation. We took it. We were on fire, telling everybody about it. Lives changed. And now, years later, you're getting a little dull in your walk. Things don't seem as crisp and sharp as they used to in terms of how you see things. And now you want to get back to when you first began. This is how you do it. Go back down to the altar when you first went down there. You can get to reclaim that because our Lord has not left that altar. You left the Lord. And we all have to do that in the course of our lives. So won't you come, bow your heart, lift up your hands, and you can go to the altar in your home, the altar in your heart, or the altar at your church. Either way, the effect will be the same because we serve a gracious, merciful God. And he's more than willing to receive his child back home, having learned life lessons, and hopefully stay on the straight and narrow heretofore. So won't you come? Won't you come? Take me back.
But still I hear you calling me. Those simple things that I once knew. The memories are drawing me. I must confess, Lord, I've been blessed. But yet my soul's not satisfied. Renew my faith, restore my joy,
And dry
the weeping eye.
Take me back, dear Lord. Received you, Lord. All right. Folks, we are back. Glad to be back in the studio. It's been gone since, last Friday? Well, yeah, last Friday. So almost 4 days, 5 days, work days anyway. But we're here today. We got a lot to talk about. We got Rodney DePriest coming in at 5. He'll be talking about his campaign. And I'm going to discuss with you, last Thursday at Briarwood Presbyterian, I announced that I would be throwing my support for the office of mayor behind Rodney DePriest. I'm going to give you the reasons why. And over the next couple of days, I'll be explaining to you my measure of what's going on politically here in the city of Jackson. Some of it had led to my decision. But Rodney has demonstrated, from day one, He's always had the credentials. And Jackson has a lot of unique challenges and opportunities. But what Jackson does not have is room for a second chance after this year. I mean, our tax base is gone. I was downtown Jackson at 2:30, was it last Wednesday? I think you could count everybody on the street. From Capitol down to Gallatin, I think we counted 8 people. And bulk of those were bums, homeless, whatever. I think many people are deluding themselves that they think Jackson's coming back. It's not coming back in the way you think it's coming back. That being said, now I'm bringing a certain flavor to the office of mayor because I was going to Jackson needs to go in a different direction as Jacksonians. We need to get out of this notion, this hobo message that we keep spouting about what everybody else needs to do for the capital city. Screw that. You live in the capital city. What are you doing? And what were you doing when it was going down the tubes? I just have a real folks, I have a real problem with that message that I heard on the campaign trail. I'm just not a big fan of it. I want to maintain my dignity while we grow and prosper, not become hobos to humanity. And so what I was going to do, and as I said, anybody who heard any of my campaign speeches know this is how I start off my speeches. I'm not here to ask for your vote. I'm not here to ask for your donations. Well, I thought you want to run for mayor. No. I thought you wanted better for the city of Jackson. So you don't feel any responsibility to study the issues, be up on the issues, be acquainted with the issues that the candidates are presenting. You don't feel any obligation in that? Well, I don't want your vote if it's going to be a beauty contest because I win that hands down. I mean, what can I say? But real talk. And I said on the campaign trail, and I said from these airwaves, I wanted to see how many people wanted a better Jackson. While there are some out there, there's not many. They say they do, but they want it better as long as they don't have to do anything. And that's that. I told them, if there's 143,000 people left in Jackson, we cutting this workload up 143,000 ways to make Jackson better. People ain't receiving that. Because, again, they have that hobo mentality that somebody else need to make their world twirl. I don't believe that at all. I'm a do-for-self kind of guy. Now, having said that, Jackson is in shambles. And what I found out on the campaign trail, the chaos that is Jackson government is on purpose. It's by intent. The chaos is to cover up the crimes. I invited Ted Hennepin to come on the program. Just take 2 hours. Don't take any calls. Just explain to Jacksonians, because if he goes to those community meetings, he gets shouted down all about the water bills and things like that. He doesn't get a chance to get his message out. Well, he said he didn't want to come in because he didn't want to influence the campaign. Well, you know what? The lack of knowledge and information is what's influencing the campaign. That's why you have John Horn out there talking about he's going to get the water system back under the city of Jackson. That would be the worst idea ever. But yet, he's pandering to the constituents of Jackson who want that. Even though when you tell them what it's going to cost them per month, they don't want that. So there's no way forward on that. And because of that uncertainty, you're not going to get long-term investment in Jackson unless you subsidize it almost 100%. And then you don't really have an investment. You just got the government creating jobs. But, hey, you do what you want to do. I'm just telling you. I'm not a big fan of that approach. Now, why would I support Rodney DePriest? Look at his skill set that he's bringing to the table. 60 years old. He's been in banking, handled all the hard assets for Trustmark in their footprint, what is across the southeast region. And then he's been in construction. He's learned how to do deadlines and meet payrolls and hire the right personnel and all that type of stuff. And then he's a man of God, seeking to do the will of Christ in the land while he's healthy and able, he and his bride. Now juxtapose that to the other candidates. Myself, as I said at the meeting Thursday night, me throwing my support behind Rodney DePriest is my first executive order as a non-mayor. Because isn't that what you want the mayor to do, to make the best choice for the citizens of Jackson? Or is it all about ego? Out of all the candidates running, Rodney would be the best candidate, hands down. John Horn would be better off where he is, in the Senate. He, like myself, he's never run a day-to-day operation of running the city. But I was going to hire a manager just like Rodney DePriest. And have said that on the campaign. I would hire Rodney if he would come. But in the absence of that, with 4 independents in the race, me, Zach, Rodney, and Lily Robinson, and then you got a Republican over there, Robert G. John has the odds-on favorite to pull it out because he's got a built-in base of Democrats who don't vote anything but for Democrats. The city can't afford John's ideals. John's ideals are Chokwe's ideals without the anger and the dashiki. And anybody who want to know that would know that. So I'm asking you, those who would have considered voting for me, to throw your support behind Rodney DePriest, full-throated support, I might add. Because he's what's needed to calm down the business community, the marketplace. Zach, excuse me. Zach has a lot of good ideas. Zach just doesn't have the seasoning. He doesn't have the temperament right now. And what he's talking about doing is what anybody's going to find out when they do the audits. But I give him credit for ringing the bell on all that stuff. But it's the same thing any city manager is going to find out when they get in there and get to digging behind the numbers. But believe me, folks, the chaos is intended. After these ninjas got a taste of what a $90 million water sewer contract could do, it made, 20 millionaires? And then you add in another handful of millionaires when they chopped up their lawyer fees. These people don't got a taste of how to do it, bro. They ain't letting it go. So my thing is this here. Jackson needs to make a change in terms of how the citizens of Jackson, in many cases, I don't think they're truly able to gauge who they are in the eyes of how people are looking at Jackson from the outside. I don't think they ever. They think they're just like Madison. They think they're just like DeSoto County. Or you're not. You got too many foot draggers, naggers, complainers, and whiners, ne'er-do-wells, people who don't want to pour their weight in the mix. And what I found from the campaign trail is that this toxic mix of preachers, politicians, nonprofits, grifters, contractors, and it doesn't have to be minority, all of them. They're more than willing to run this city into the ground. Now, you got to understand, Jackson is going to be a $300 or $400 million budget city for the foreseeable future anyway. So that's got $300 or $400 million locked in every year that they can get their portion of. Folks, they're not going to let it go. They ain't interested in doing what's right for the citizens of Jackson. They're interested in doing what's right for their pocketbook. Now, my supporter, Rodney, there was no quid pro quo. There was nothing. Hey, I want Jackson to do better. Now, the problem Zach is going to have, he published the salaries and names of all the city workers. Those are the people you need to have rowing in the same direction with you, dog. And this is what I was talking about with the seasoning. Having the right to do something and having the sense not to do it is the seasoning that you need and you lacked in that particular instance. But you do it any way you want. I understand transparency, but you're still going to need them to help you pull over your program. And because of Rodney's calming demeanor and his seasoned life experiences, I think the citizens of Jackson and the marketplace will benefit from having him there at the helm. He's not excitable, and I pray that he's not corrupted. Now, he's running with some corrupt folks now, in my estimation. Not all of them. But it's just like I was saying about the committee of 50 that selected John. They up there talking about Chokeway's shortcomings, criminal intent, yada, yada, yada. You got a lot of criminals amongst that 50 there too, dog. But you can look the other way because, again, it's all about the chaos. So, again, I'm asking that you give Rodney your consideration, and I would even go further, your support on Election Day. The reason why, if we were playing this as a card hand, keeping John Horn in the Senate would make the most sense. Why throw out a guy who's good with the day-to-day operations, that would be DePriest, and put a guy in there who's a wheeler dealer? I'm not taking calls right now, so just tell them, hold on. Who's that? Okay, I'm not taking calls.
Oh, at all?
No, not today.
He's not going to take any calls.
Yeah, because I'm just getting back, and I got a whole hour to do this before Rodney gets here. Yeah. Rodney is going to provide the stability that we need. John is a wheeler dealer. Here's the example of why he's a wheeler dealer by his own estimation and conversation. You know, he's been talking about this workforce training program, youth training program for 16 years. Every time he's ran for office. Why don't he just do it? If it's a good idea, it would be a good idea regardless of whether he was mayor. Because John says you didn't take the deal. Is there anything wrong with that? No. But that's not what Jackson needs now. Jackson needs somebody to stabilize the systems of Jackson. Put in place some generally accepted accounting practices for every department. Somebody who can read a spreadsheet, a profit and loss statement. Rodney's the guy. This is a job for White Boy Bob. The people who want John are the people who ran the city in the ground. I saw the post of Jeff Good on Nextdoor, was it yesterday? And he was talking about why he was supporting John. I've been knowing John for years. And I'm going to support him because he's my friend. That's legitimate enough for me. But I will just say this to Jeff Good and others who feel that same way. I thought you wanted the best interest of Jackson. Now, Jeff Good hires people all the time. He's been in the restaurant business. He's probably got a couple hundred employees. Why would you knowingly hire the least qualified for this position because he's your friend? You wouldn't do that with Benet or whatever the name of your company is. You wouldn't do it there. Now, remember all those people who were telling us, we need to vote for John to make sure Chokeway don't get in there. Okay. So what, you were using John, or was John using you, or y'all using us? Oh, let's take a break. I'm sorry. All right, folks, we're back. It is Wednesday. Glad to be back here in the studios. Hey, I would like to remind you about our good friends over at Johnny's Pizza. That's right, folks. You got a taste for pizza? You got a taste for Johnny's Pizza. They're located at 2 locations. At 272 Calhoun Station Parkway, right next to the mail room, and also 670 Highway 51 in Ridgeland, Mississippi, north of Venable Glass. Folks, you got pizzas to choose from, the Hog Heaven, the Muffalata sandwiches. They've got it all, folks. They've got mozzarella cheese sticks. They've got it all, cinnamon sticks, and an 8-inch chocolate chip cookie. Folks, for some of the finest pizza known to mankind, you can get it at Johnny's Pizza House there in Madison County, Ridgeland, and Gluckstadt. Check it out today. Not tomorrow, today. All right, folks. Here's the deal. We are going to have Rodney DePriest in at 5 o'clock. He can tell you out his own mouth why he should be mayor or why he wants to be mayor. But I'm just saying, the people, the committee of 50, you were telling us, well, you're telling the public, to vote for John to ensure, because John could definitely beat Chokeway in the runoff. Okay, I got you on that. But now I'm still expecting you guys to do what's in the best interest of Jackson. I think it's a matter of what's in their own best interest, which is, again, understandable. Everybody's doing what they're in their best interest. But that's not their public proclamations. So all these committee of 50, all of them are businessmen in one sense or another. All of them have hired someone in one sense or another. Why are you going with the least qualified person of the remaining 7 that's in the race? Why? Jeff Good, answer the question. Andy Matisse, answer the question. Robert Gibbs, answer the question. Because it's good for you. Hey, and you know what? That's a perfectly legitimate answer. If you said that, bruh, hey, I got to yield. But why be deceitful if that is the case? In terms of the day-to-day operation of the city, because the city of Jackson, folks, the chaos is a cover for the crimes that's being committed in Jackson. They don't have no intention of letting the money go. Now, Rodney says he's a follower of Christ, and I take him at his word. So I'm expecting him to stand on the four corners of the Bible and its scriptures therein when it comes to governing this city and his behavior and dealing with those who are trying to get him off path to do something illegal. Because I'm a firm believer that you can have friends who are, let's just say, ill repute or less than stellar character, and you not be of that ilk. So I'm not saying that because he has folks that he knows who have done the city wrong in the past, in my estimation, that he should be excluded from consideration because he has those friends. No. But I do want people to make public statements and proclamations that their intent is to do what's right and demonstrate it with their actions on a day-to-day basis. As I said before, now, if all you want to do is do the beauty contest, you don't want to study the issues, I understand, do that. Jackson's not going to make it. At this point here, there's already been a total inversion of Jackson. There is no business community, as it were. There are businesses in the community. There is no business community. What I see happening with Jackson going forward, you know, John talks so much about the 1% sales tax. Baby, they're shutting down all the businesses. Where do you think sales tax come from? Magic? There's no forward-looking thing. And when I was on the campaign trail, all I was hearing were ideals that didn't lead anywhere. All the ideals were for bums. Jackson is, at the end of the day, if we don't get it right on June 3rd by selecting someone who can manage the affairs of Jackson effectively and efficiently, and I think Rodney would be the best one for that, your investment in Jackson is going down the tubes. Now, your house may be okay, depending on what neighborhood you live in. Because all you're going to do is gate it off. But I'm of the mindset, based on what I'm seeing and the trends that I'm seeing now, the Fondren and the Belhaven districts and things like that, they're probably going to be the best that Jackson has to offer in terms of a mix of business and homes. And that's dwindling. People don't want to be around us, dog. Our behavior has gotten so ratchet, or ratchetang, as April Chapman calls it. It's gotten so ratchet. People don't want to be around us. And we are deluding ourselves if we think that we're just going to demand everybody else come and be around us. Why don't we just act better? And that's where I was going to go. That's the direction I was going to go as mayor. I was going to implore and exhort Jacksonians. No, we're not doing the stupid stuff no more. We're going to act like we have some sense. We're going to conduct ourselves with dignity. They ain't interested in that. They're interested in making money. I'm interested also, but not at any cost. So if you want to go with the deal maker, go with the deal maker. But don't cry, especially you, Jeff Good. I don't want to hear you crying. My water cut off. I ain't got no customers. Yeah. But your friend's in there. Tell him to bring you over a few bottles. See, and this is one of my concerns as I sit here and looked at the landscape. And, you know, I've always had a concern about the racial component thing of Jackson and Mississippi in general. I think they just beating that horse to death. And I know a lot of whites out there, they like to say, hey, I got black friends. And like in the case of Jeff, he's talking about him and John being good friends. And I understand that. I can appreciate his loyalty and fidelity. But you know what? I'd rather for you to tell me true. Like you did, and let me say, oh, I looked at the numbers. Oh, no, this is not going to work. And it's going to increase the chances that John is going to win this thing outright. At least with Rodney having a chance, we got a chance of saving the city of Jackson. But now, if that's the way you want to go, then go that route. But don't complain when your water bill's $200 or $300 a month. Because remember, you got what you want. And don't be asking the rest of the state to bail you out. You got what you wanted. And if you think the state government is going to give the city of Jackson money with no strings attached, you got another thing coming. Just because they got John down there, John is still of a melanated hue, okay? And he's prone to the BS. So what I envision happening, and particularly if we get it wrong, and when you elect John Horn on June 3rd, you're going to have to go out of Jackson to dine. Well, we got 4 breakfast places. We got 2 Waffle Houses and 2 IHOPs left. What happened to all the rest of them? What happened to all the other morning breakfast places we could go to? We're slowly, at what point do we get a clue that this thing is coming off the rails? We see the businesses leaving and we still doubling down on the black crap. And then you got the guilt-ridden whites just cheering it along. All I can say is good luck, because it ain't going to work. Our numbers, no, we ain't taking no calls. We'll be right back. All right, folks, we're back. Hey, I want to remind you, the mail room of Gluckstadt. That's right, folks. Gluckstadt, Mississippi has its own office resource center, and it's near and dear right there on the Miracle Mile, 270 Calhoun Station Parkway. I would encourage you to, actually 272 Calhoun Station Parkway, right next to Johnny's Pizza. Come on down for shipping, packing, professional services at your service. Folks, they have multiple carriers to choose from DHL to FedEx, UPS, United States Postal Service, the whole 9 yards. They do gift wrapping. They do notary services. Also, if you need a passport photo, they can do that. Check out mailroomgluckstadt.com and you see all the offerings. Or you just call them, say, hey, let me send over this file I want printed. Send it over. Call 601-521-1210. Folks, they're experts, trained, and they're ready to serve you. Check it out, folks. Best customer service known to mankind at Mailroom of Gluckstadt. Mailroomofgluckstadt.com. All right, folks, I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer. I'm just saying there are certain things you have to do to maintain financial equilibrium. And you got some folks who just got so used to, let's just say, for lack of a better word, stealing. They don't care about the rest of us. I think it's patently irresponsible for any candidate to say that they're going to bring the city of Jackson's water, to bring the water department back up under the city of Jackson. There's not enough ratepayers. There's not enough users of the system to make that financially feasible. Now, if you just want to do the Black Pride thing, I understand. But Black Pride is going to cost you a couple $100 a month. And then you'll be screaming again. And then you got black leadership like Kenny running around here talking about these people can't afford this bill. Dude, how do you think life works? See, my administration, we're just going to grow up as citizens. We're going to start acting like adults, handling our business. They don't want that. As long as they can play the race card and browbeat some guilt-ridden whites to fork over some more money, baby, they ain't going to stop doing it. They ain't going to stop, and they ain't going to get enough. But I was going to come with the green eye shades and some mean mugs and cold stares. This is how we're going to do this, dog. Because at the end of the day, we're going to be more stable financially and as a city. But right now, you got too many folks. Again, they got that hobo mentality. So as an alternative, our best out at this point here is going to be Rodney DePriest. Now, he can hire Zach, because Zach is going to need somebody to keep a handle on him. Because Zach don't realize it. One of the homies down at the city of Jackson will stomp his damn lights out. I mean, they will stomp him into a grease spot and sit down and do 6 months and be content. I know you got a lot of energy and all that, bro. Hey, I'm just telling you. I ain't from Europe somewhere. Bo no baseball. Kim no Negroes. You can't come with that energy that you bringing, bro, and think it's going to be all right. Yes, you are right. But that's where the seasoning comes in that you're lacking. Being right don't necessarily mean you're going to be better off, bro. That's all. So I think Jackson would be in more stable hands with Rodney. He's been a city alderman in Clinton for 2 8 years, so he knows about budgeting in a municipal situation. He's bringing what the city needs right now. No, he's not flamboyant. He's not setting his hair on fire. He doesn't wear purple hair and tattoos and things like that. He's just a guy grounded in things that works. But now you can do you, because everybody thinks this is a game. But as I said before, and I said this, Jackson, Mississippi is going to be the Ukraine of Mississippi. Jackson is going to be the place where people with mental illnesses, physical illness, people off their damn rocker, who are criminally insane or just generically insane, who have lost their marbles, this is where they're going to congregate at. And the rest of the state just going to ship everybody into Jackson. Now, Jackson, you got to be clear-eyed about what you're doing. You're setting yourselves up for that. You're steadily expanding the number of services offered to the aforementioned group that I just named. So you're going to get more of them. So don't be upset. Just live with it. Just realize that this is your economy. This is why I keep saying there's been a total inversion from a private business community to the compassion industry. The preachers, the bishops, they run this town. They got a coalition between the preachers, the nonprofits, the politicians, and the grifters who contract with the government. And they're using, folks, that's one of the things that raised my eyebrows when I got the voter registration list for the city of Jackson. I'm looking at all these addresses with 10, 15 people on it. And when you ride by there, it'd be, wait a minute, what's going on here? The corruption is built into the pie. But now you can do you. You can do the black, you can do the melanated mysticism and think, oh, if we get it all black, it's going to be all right. Well, you had 40 years and it ain't all right. It's gotten worse. All the businesses are gone. Clay was saying this morning on his show about the Eudora closing over there in the district. And people point to the district as, oh, there's still, here's the thing, John points to the district, oh, there's still investment going. Bro, we're running off everything. Our sense of ingratitude and bad attitudes, we can't hold them. The only thing is that when they build up these nice places outside of the city of Jackson, the riffraff is going to follow where the nice places are. The only problem that the riffraff has is that you go to jail over there in those places, and they should go to jail. In Jackson, you get a pass. Probably get a trip to Disney World. But I don't know if Jackson's going to do the right thing or not. I don't know. But I'm prepared for any eventuality. But as far as Jackson being a city that can operate with its own tax resources, that is not going to happen. It ain't going to happen. It's not going to happen, homie. You can't get there from here. You've already given it up. If you think about it, I want you to just think in your mind. Aside from what you see over in the district, at Highland Colony, at Meadowbrook, Meadowbrook, Westland Plaza, what other shopping centers are there in Jackson that's full? And we see these things, these things that are happening and we don't even see it or don't even recognize or don't even care, like it don't mean it. It does mean something. Another jobs training program is not going to change the price of eggs. How long have you been hearing about how the labor union is going to be training these kids to do plumbing and carpentry, and we still got all these raggedy houses around here? Folks, this is all a game. Nobody's serious about trying to make this thing right. Okay, he must be downstairs. Yeah. So I don't know what you want to do. My suggestion is that I'm supporting Rodney. I'm voting for him. And for those of you who like the ideals I was espousing, Rodney's going to be the closest thing to it. John is going to be the furthest thing. Zach will be the closest one. But like I said before, Zach got to get 1,000 city workers enrolling in the same direction with him. And he done published all their private information online. I don't know how that's going to play out. I say let's go with the sure thing. Let's go with Rodney and give Jackson a fighting chance for the next 4 years. Keep John in the Senate, since the folks like John so much and all these Bridge to Nowhere projects that he's done, and then he can continue doing that. But it's up to you. You make the final choice. You make the final decision. But as for me and mine, I'm going with the priests. All right, folks, again, I do want to encourage you to study the platform of Zach, of Rodney, of me, of John. John doesn't have a platform. John has a speech. It's not well thought out. This is why when Jeff wrote that letter on Nextdoor about why he's supporting John Horn, I thought you were supporting the city. And this is what I've been noticing about all these different groups that meet. You know, they got their luncheons and their breakfasts and all days of the week. You can spend your whole life just going to luncheons and breakfasts where people sit around and do hugs and group hugs and all that kind of stuff. But what I found, there's so many people in Jackson that love everybody. They got Christian love, Christ-like love everybody, but they don't have the Christian courage to tell people about the love. In other words, if I'm doing something wrong, brother, you got to pull my coattail if you love me. Jeff, if you love John, say, look, man, this is what we need you to do, to be about. But again, I keep saying these guilt-ridden whites, they're going to kill us all. Well-meaning, but they don't have Christian courage. Because you got to be bold when you tell somebody, you're wrong for this one. Come on in and have a seat, bro. Come on in. But what we're going to do is take a quick break. We'll be right back. All right, the final few minutes of the first hour of the Kim Wade Show. Rodney DePriest is in the studios. We'll be getting with him in another 8 minutes or so. He's going to be talking about his campaign, and we just ask that you listen in. Folks, again, anybody who's listened to any of my campaign speeches, know I started out all of them the same way. I'm not asking for your vote, not asking for your money. I'm asking for you to go to the program, to my platform on my website, and if you can get behind that, I will be the standard bearer for it. Because I don't want a beauty contest. I don't want a popularity contest. I want Jackson to work. And what I'm finding out, many people they find it hard to get their head around somebody not wanting something for. Look, I'm just not going to do it. I've never been a crowd follower. Okay? Jackson can work, but it can't if we're going to have all this grifting going on. And if you as citizens don't want to do your fair share, I think it's irresponsible. And the way I hear candidates talk about how they're going to basically make the legislature give them the money because they're the capital city. Even John says that on occasion. I'm saying, John, you know it ain't going to do. They ain't did it since. They ain't done it yet. Why can't you just show a little decorum? That's the reason why I recommend Rodney to you, because he's going to show that proper respect and decorum everybody is due. This chip on the shoulder, the angry Negro motif, it's past time for that. We need some folks who can really sit down at the table and bring home the bacon and not go in there throwing sharp elbows, telling people what they gonna do. And you broke too? No, I don't recommend that. So again, I'm just asking that you listen to the next hour, call your friends and ask them to listen in. That Rodney DePriest is on the air with Kim Wade. We're going to just sit here and have a discussion, and we're not going to take calls maybe towards the end, but the main thing I want him to get out because these forums that we have don't allow you to really get into a lot of detail. You can ask and answer the questions, and you can be snippy and cute and yada, yada, yada. But in terms of giving people things that they need to make a decision, it's not always the best format. So now we're going to have an hour for this man just to chat and chat it up. So we just encouraging you to join with us and listen in and give your consideration. I commend them to you highly. Rodney DePriest. What is it? RodneyDePriest.com? DePriestforMayor.com. All right, what we're going to do is take a quick break. We'll be right back. All right, folks, we're back, and it is Wednesday. Glad to be back here in the studios. And our call-in number, which we won't be taking calls yet, is 879-0002. And the hotline number is brought to you by EliteRoofer.com. EliteRoofer.com. For your first, second, or third estimate, give them a call. Keep this number handy, 601-326-2755. All right, folks, as promised, using the full weight of my local influence, I've secured the presence of one Rodney DePriest in the studio. How you doing, Rodney?
Doing well, Kim. Thank you.
Well, it's good to have you in the studios. We got to know one another over the campaign trail here, and I've come to know, admire, and respect his business acumen and his ability to deliver his message. And I want you guys just to listen to Rodney, because some of you have heard and seen him on the forums, and you never really got a chance to hear him. He's not the most excitable. I guess he's a local version of what's the guy used to be on a. Oh man, I can't think of that.
You're scaring me.
Oh, well, he would know it. But anyway, I'll think of it in a minute. It's not Pat Paulson, but the other guy. He used to do a show. He's kind of a deadpan humor kind of guy. Yeah. Anyway, we got Rodney DePriest. Rodney, first of all, just tell people a little bit about yourself and your background.
All right, I'll start out. 30-year resident of Jackson. First 10 years of my life was in Jackson. The last 20 years of my life was in Jackson. In between, I was in Clinton. Family moved out to Clinton in 1976 for my dad to get closer to work, and graduated Clinton High School, Mississippi College, education's in business, accounting degree. And shortly after that, started a construction company, and had the privilege of owning and operating that for a little over 20 years. During my tenure of construction in 1993, I was elected to the Board of Aldermen in Clinton and was able to serve 2 terms there. Decided not to run for a 3rd term, felt like 2 was enough, and moved on. And then
did you feel like you made a difference in the 2 years? And what prompted you to even get in politics? Were you having problems with, business in terms of permitting, or just dealing with government red tape, or what prompted
it was a big transition period in 1993. We had a long-term mayor and some board members that were exiting, and that's the year that Rosemary Altman became mayor. Phil Fisher joined the board. Jehu Brabham joined the board. It was a big change, and it was an exciting time to be part of it. And at 26 years old, I mean, I ran against 5 people. It was a crowded race, and so, but it had always had a little interest, and it was a great experience for me. Learned a lot through the process.
Gotcha. All right. So you finished up your council term, and what'd you do then?
Well, continued the construction company until 2012. Trustmark Bank contacted me, asked if I would consider coming to basically build their buildings. We bought and sold real estate for the bank. We built their buildings. We managed their properties. Took care of all fixed assets that weren't IT related is what we did. And that was prior to being at Trustmark. If somebody had asked me, how to manage business, I would have said absolutely. I've had my own business for over 20 years. Then I landed at Trustmark, and I got to experience a senior management role where you saw what a complex organization looks like, from board of directors, your C-suite, senior management, and 3,000 employees, 200 locations, 6 states. And I suddenly realized, oh, no, this is management. This is what a complex organization looks like. And it was a very formative period for me to be able to serve in a senior role and to be part of a real growth period in my professional life.
Folks, we're talking with Rodney DePriest. It's DePriestForMayor.com if you want to check out the website and you want to get involved with this campaign. All right, so you did that, and how long were you with Trustmark?
Left there in 2021.
Okay.
I tell everybody I never got discontent with Trustmark, but I felt my contentment waning, and my faith is everything to me, and that's just one of those prompts that Becky, my wife, and I just knew, okay, well, let's pray through this, and then just felt like it was time to leave the bank, and left with with the prompting from the Lord. I'll show you what I got for you later. And so after leaving there, after having 30 years of really, really hard, busy work, especially my 9 years at Trustmark, it was a grinding experience that was my fault, not the bank's fault. I took a self-employed mindset into the corporate world, and I learned quickly that'll kill you, you know. But shortly after leaving the bank, a friend shared a TED Talk with me, Reverend Jeffrey Brown out of Boston, Massachusetts, and how they dealt with youth violence in Boston. And it resonated with me. I started sharing it with a bunch of people. After a couple of months of sharing it, really wasn't getting any traction, and kind of processing that one day, and just genuinely kind of felt, nudging from the Lord, well, you ain't got a job. Why are you looking for somebody else to work on this? And so from there, that led to me just moving around the city, trying to build some relationships. I mean, I'm 58 now. At that point, I was the 55-year-old white guy,
right?
In an 80% black city, and I knew I couldn't show up and just say, "Hey, I got the answers."
Right.
And I talked with Reverend Brown in Boston. We had some conversations back and forth. And he said, Rodney, what I hear, you got to build the relationships. He said, what I suggest is what I did in Boston. We had a ministry of presence. We just showed up, and we consistently showed up. And what the pastors did in Boston was they, after some horrendous violence in the city, they hit the streets of Boston from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. on Friday nights in the most dangerous parts of the city. And he said, Rodney, we did what not many preachers know how to do. We showed up, we quit preaching, and we only listened. And we were a sight. Some of us had collars on, and we're out there with gang leaders and drug dealers, and we just showed up week after week after week. We weren't trying to fix anybody. But after having a consistent presence, those guys engaged the pastors, which led to relationships, which led to them coordinating meetings between the police and the gang leaders and the police and the drug dealers and negotiating settlements between the gangs. And so that just got me moving around the city, not showing up from a violence perspective in the most dangerous parts. I just had to meet some people.
Right.
And so I met a group of pastors that pray every Thursday at noon, and most Thursdays I still pray with them to this day, 3.5 years later. And then led on to getting to know Vince Gordon, who's Inner City Young Life Director for Jackson, very, very well. Representative Ronnie Crudup Jr.
Right.
So we're in a Thursday morning. We call it a prayer group. It's a Thursday morning conversation. It's focused on Jackson. We pray for Jackson. We discuss issues in Jackson, and then it's also kind of a safe space where when it isn't going right, we can vent there as well.
Right.
All that being said, that just led to some really, really dear relationships across the city, which led me into the schools, going with Vince, going to Jim Hill High School every Friday morning for their Tigers for Christ program. For the last 2 summers, Becky and I have had the privilege of going to Young Life Camp in North Carolina with Inner City Jackson students, and just getting to, one, be present enough to develop trust. Once the trust was there, young people like to talk. I mean, when they trust you and they know you care about where they are and how they are, and you're not coming in with a plan to fix them.
Right.
They, and once that transparency and they opened up, we just recognized just how, quite honestly, traumatized so many of our young people in Jackson are.
Folks, we're talking to Rodney DePriest, candidate for mayor, DePriestForMayor.com. We just want him to talk about himself, his plans for the city of Jackson, why he's running, etc. So we're just letting him flow. So you can continue on. Why are you running? I mean, what is it you see you think you can offer that Jackson might need, and etc.?
Well, the idea of me running for mayor first came up in the black community. Some of these relationships that I had made, started bringing it up over 2 years ago, and I was pretty dismissive of the thought. That's not what I was doing. It wasn't my plan. It wasn't my agenda. And then over time, about this time last year, some of these couple pastors and friends came to me and re-engaged that conversation, and we all agreed, Becky and I and these men just agreed, well, we're going to have a season of prayer over this. And all I can tell you is in a very short period of time, my heart changed, Becky's heart's changed. We felt like this is what God has for us right now. Now, I'm hesitant to overstate that. There's no doubt we felt led into this race.
Right.
I'm not one of those people that says, God told me to run and I'm going to be your next mayor.
Right.
This is a journey of obedience.
Standing where he tells you to stand.
That's it. We're staying on that path, and we're going to trust him for the outcome.
I couldn't agree with you more. At the end of the day, I've been saying this not just because I'm in the campaign, but in order to get things done, so often you got to check your ego at the door. It's not about you if you're really trying to serve the people. If all you want to do is get in there, you need a title or a job or something, I can understand that. I'm not looking for either one. I just see how certainly things could be done. So much of what needs to be done in Jackson is just stop doing stupid stuff and stop doing things that the Lord would not be pleased with, stealing, all the little things like that that's causing us to trail behind other cities and towns. And I just think we need to lead by example, and I think you're doing that.
Well, and I think we've got a season nuts and bolts and blocking and tackling ahead of us.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
you've heard me say it over and over in forums. I mean, I can't get out of my contractor mindset. We've got to get the foundation right.
Right. That's right.
And there's nothing glamorous about that. There's not a bunch of great fun plans that people when you're working on that foundation. But I've built enough things to know if we don't get this initial stage right, the future's not going to be what we need it to be.
You know, and to that point, Rodney, that is one of the things that I noticed on the campaign. I see the things that needs to be done in Jackson. I see how it can be done, how it can be made to work. But again, people want the spectacular. They want the sparkle and the frizz and all that kind of things like that. And it's hard for me. I can't be genuine to myself going that route, trying to sparkle someone with the BS when I believe what they need to hear is the truth. I think a lot of the frustration that I heard on the campaign trail from the constituents, from the voters, is basically just out of ignorance of what's really going on. They don't have enough information. You know, you need somebody to give you. That's why I wanted Ted Hennepin to just come on and just tell us what's going on with the water, because the water sewer affects so much of what's wrong with Jackson.
Absolutely.
And if he could just give us a clear understanding so the people in Presidential Hill will understand, okay, this is why we can't get a permanent fix to this problem over here, because it's going to be 6 months before they get over here. So people can get things. I mean, because the reality of the situation will allow people to calm down, most people anyway. And if we're not willing to do that, then all we're doing is manipulating people for our own gain, and I'm not going to do that.
Well, and I don't think we've been honest with the residents of Jackson over the whole water issue. There's been a lot of conversation about they're stealing our source of revenue.
Right.
Well, I mean, we had a collapsed water system that was bankrupt is what was taken away.
Right.
I mean, there is no stream of revenue. To this day, the water system is losing $3 million a month to this day. Mm-hmm. And so this idea of, we have to get this thing back.
$3 million a month?
A month.
Whew.
It's losing $3 million a month right now.
Jeez.
And so absolutely, do we want to voice in operations of a system down the road?
Yeah,
yes, we do. But the thought that we gave up these streams of revenue, and one of the things about the water sewer system, it's an enterprise fund.
Right.
By state law, that money stays within the water sewer fund. You cannot generate a profit and move it over into the general fund to build streets or pay police or anything else. It's not allowed by law. And so the people have been misled on what was actually taken away.
Precisely.
You need a voice in the future management of it, but I'm of the opinion you get that voice by stewardship, being credible with what you still have in your hands. If we want to have a conversation with the federal or state government about ongoing operation of a water system, why don't we demonstrate that we can run City Hall?
There you go. Folks, and that right there is the reason why I recommend Rodney DePriest. That year's experience as council person there, you heard the terminology he's using about the enterprise funds, et cetera. That's stuff that I don't have, Zach doesn't have, Lily doesn't have, John doesn't have. John's a good guy. But if we're going to play the game more effectively for the citizens of Jackson, let's keep John in the Senate so he can keep working his magic. Put Rodney in there. That stabilizes the system so the powers that be feel comfortable with investing in Jackson. It ain't rocket science. We're not asking you to do anything, but if you want to do the melanated stuff, go ahead. Ain't no money in it. Our number 6, well, we're not going to take calls. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. All right, folks, we got DePriest, not a priest, DePriest in the house, Rodney DePriest, DePriestforMayor.com. Folks, the skill set to be a senator is not the skill set that you use going to be a mayor. The skill set to be a talk show host is not the skill set you need to be mayor. The skill set you need is what you just heard this man articulate over the last 15, 20 minutes. You can do what you want. If you are into the pride thing, and I'm just telling you, you can't pay bills with pride. But if that's the way you want to go for it. I ain't mad at you. I'm disappointed, but I ain't mad. I understand everybody's got but we need to elevate our game. And the thing about Rodney is that he has a calming effect on the whatever table he's sitting at. He's not excitable. He's going to sit there and look at the issues and the data and the facts and go with that, because that's what he had to do. When you had to report to your superiors up at Trustmark And you had 3,000 employees. That's almost 2,000 more employees than the city of Jackson has.
It's a big job.
Yeah.
It's a big job. And we, like I said, those 9 years were very formative. And even from the standpoint of business continuity, because if downtown Jackson shut down, we had a problem.
Right.
And people didn't care if we had a water leak or an ice storm in Jackson. Folks that are banking with us in Pensacola and Birmingham and Houston, they don't care.
Right.
And just the planning and the risk mitigation and the risk management and the things you do, and then when those hard events did hit, we had a hurricane hit Panama City. Well, those people needed a bank and the disaster recovery. So all of those type things really taught me a lot, prepared me well, and they're the kind of things that I have just spinning in the back of my mind of that's what we have to do to be effective as a city.
Right. Folks, we're talking with DePriestForMayor.com. Rodney's in the studios with us. And, Jackson is facing a myriad of problems. Is there any one thing that you have on your mind that you that you want to do first, or you definitely want to do while you're there? Or because my whole goal was just try to stabilize the systems of Jackson so people would have confidence in the dealing with the city of Jackson. I was going to do so much of what Trump is doing. Trump is just doing deals. Everybody else is going across the globe trying to start more wars. His whole thing is he runs into somebody in the airport. Oh, you do this? Huh. Oh, so you grow plants. You know what? I might need to order a couple hundred plants for all my locations. That's the kind of guy he is. He's not out there trying to, you got on a gay pride flag. I want to do business. No, he does business with people who want to do business. That's what I see you bringing to the city of Jackson. That's what I was going to bring, that people who want to just, hey, man, let's get our money, let's get our hustle on. You can do it here in the city of Jackson without all the red tape and the hassle.
That's right. And there are kind of two stages to this in the way I see it. And Kim, you heard these questions in forums. Mm-hmm. I really didn't care anything for what do you do in the first 100 days. Right. I mean, yeah, we need to pay attention to that. But all these grand plans in the first 100 days, it's like I said earlier, we're going to go back. We're going to get the foundation right. Right. Structurally, organizationally, and we're going to hire a public works director. We're going to do just some of that nuts and bolts so we're moving forward. And then financially, have the assessments and understand where's the money been going. Are we accounting for it well? Are we actually collecting what we should collect? Right. Are we paying our bills on time? The thought that we've had one contractor, through the 1% sales tax projects that was due $1.5 million in interest. Wow. For bills being late, and the money was in the bank to pay the bill. See. And so those kind of things just almost my head, like my head's going to explode. How do you let that happen? Right. And that's one of the things that I was saying when people ask, well, what are you going to do to grow the city of Jackson business wise? I said, you know what? I'm not. I'm going to allow you to do it. We're going to create the conditions where you can do it. It's not rocket science. I don't believe the government should be doing vegetable markets and things like that. There may be some extenuating circumstances like that, but I want to get it where we don't have to subsidize people coming in the city to do business in the city. We want them to come in because they want to be here. Well, I appreciate this chance to share some of it because you've heard it in some of the forums. But at the end of the day, my view of the city's role in growth of business and economic development is we create the environment that business can thrive. Right. That's right. Business people are the best economic developers that we have. Very few businesses shut the doors and leave because they wanted to. Mm-hmm. Something happened to the conditions. Now, some people make poor business decisions. We get all that. Happens, yeah. But when we look at where we are and you look at what is tying our hands, well, Kim, my number one thing what got me started is the violence in Jackson. Right. And you will not have the quality of life, the economic development, the jobs that our residents deserve to have as long as people don't feel safe. If employees don't feel safe, if customers don't feel safe, we're just not going to get there. And you put right behind that, you got the whole infrastructure issues. And the number of times in my role with Trustmark when every time we thought we were going to lose water pressure, we spent tens of thousands of dollars to mitigate the risk so that the headquarters could continue to operate. That's so adverse to the climate where business can thrive. If you want to look at, fortunately, downtown Jackson, aesthetically, it looks really good right now.
It does.
It's just far too empty. And so many people have left because the water issue in a building like downtown, it's not, oh, get me bottled water and put a porta-john outside. Mechanical systems shut down when you don't have adequate water pressure. And so you can only put up with that for so long. And so, therefore, some of the buildings downtown went into foreclosure. They've been sold. Fortunately, a developer's coming in now, buying some of it up, and that looks very, very positive. But we have to know, if we want the economic development, the jobs, the quality of life in Jackson, there has to be laser focus on violence and infrastructure.
Folks, that's what I'm talking about. There is, we have to pivot. He mentioned downtown and the lack of businesses at this point. We have to pivot, and there's only a few revenue streams and a few avenues available to us to generate businesses and income, and we got to be very diligent about that. We don't have the luxury of getting it wrong the next 4 years. I was talking with an architect that had worked on the expansion of one of the government buildings down there, and they had gotten the wrong information. They were thinking that the size of a water line coming into downtown Jackson was larger than it was. And it turned out, had it not been for all those empty buildings that had gone vacant, they wouldn't have had enough water pressure to complete the project. So it just happens to be that, again, that's why the details and the data and the facts mean something. You can't be emotional. You need to be dispassionate. That's why we need the calmness of a Rodney DePriest at the helm of the city of Jackson. That itself is going to buy us a few points in the bond market. It's going to buy a few points in the markets in general, where people say, well, let's give it a few let's give it a few more years. Let's see if it's worth doing. That's why it's important that we get it right, in my estimation. Now, you can do what you want to do, but if you really want the city of Jackson and what's best for the city of Jackson, I ask that you would give this man your consideration. Now, Rodney, what about personnel? Are you coming in there? You doing wholesale firings or what?
That's not the way I work. I think you have to know that the city has to continue to operate,
right,
number one, and then you have to fairly assess whether or not do we have the right people in the right chair. You might just need to move somebody from one seat to another. Have they been adequately trained? Have they been provided the resources they need? I think we all know there will be some changes.
Right.
But this idea, and I run into it periodically, you just got to get rid of them all. That's not the way I work.
Well, it's a recipe for disaster. You need that institutional knowledge. Even if the people there were not optimal when in the previous administration, they still have inside baseball knowledge on how things work. This is what I'm talking about, being clear-eyed and not being emotional as you're making these tough decisions. So that's one of the reasons why I think it was the New Jerusalem Forum when I had an opportunity to sit in the audience because they wouldn't let me on the stage, and I got to listen to you. And I said, you know what, this guy really does has what it takes to make the city run. And like I said before, I ain't trying to give myself a butter cookie or a parade in my honor, but I don't do things based on my ego. I got a healthy ego. Ain't nothing wrong with my ego. It's just the fact that, dude, because when the traffic lights are working, I benefit from it. I don't benefit from them if they're not working. I'm in as much danger as everybody else. All right, well, let's go on to another topic. Let's take this break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the airport. All right, we got the cool and calm Rodney DePriest in the studios, our next mayor for the city of Jackson. If you want Jackson to do better, now you vote any way you want. I'm just saying this is who I'm voting for. I'm giving you the reasons why. I want Jackson to work, and it can't. Why? Jackson's just afraid to be great. They're afraid to do the things that's going to lead to greatness. Okay? When the water system was flat on its back, we got Tate involved. He sent his crew in here to fix things. We're calling in DePriest. DePriest is the wolf, like in Pulp Fiction. He's coming in to solve problems. All right? I asked you about the airport. What's your thoughts on the airport? People saying, oh, we're going to lose the airport, and yada, 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 yada. You have any thoughts one way or the other?
I think it's a tremendous asset. I think anything that is rightfully ours, we need to be in a position that we protect it. We don't let anybody take anything from us. But at the same time, it's an asset. It has real value. and I would like to see the calculation of just what is that value. I think the other thing we need to recognize is we're looking for support from the state. We're looking for support from surrounding areas. So it's not like we can take our toy and put it on the shelf and say we're not going to have this
We're not going to talk
conversation.
about this.
We're not
on
going to
this.
talk about this.
But we need you to help us over here.
You know,
Yeah.
and the reality is, when the airport was built, you know, Jackson was the city that drove the traffic to the airport. Now the surrounding communities drive more traffic than Jackson proper does, and so let's be open to some cooperation. I'm going to reiterate. I don't want to give anything away. Not going to give anything away. You protect the assets that are yours, but sometimes you need to realize the value of the assets you have and just what can be done if you maximize that value.
Well, you know, in book Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Kim Kiyosaki, he points out it's better to control something rather than to own something. If you got all the resources coming towards you, you don't need to see your name over the door. You getting all the revenues. That's what Rodney just stated. This is what I've been saying. Folks, let's see what the value is. Let's see how we can improve the assets. I had one of the board commissioners. I didn't know he was on the airport board. Talked to me at the Mount Nebo, and he was telling me about all that. I didn't know they had their own water system, et cetera. All that's fine and good, but there's still, okay, if they're looking at your water system and they want it, well, what do they have that we want? You know, why can't we work out a deal? Why should we hold on to something that we're losing value on just to say that we own it? No, we got too much of Jackson looking like that same attitude where we just want to have it for, I don't know, pride purposes. And like I say, pride doesn't pay bills. They hadn't paid mine. So I would agree with you. Let's look at the value of the asset, because from what I've heard to date, I haven't heard anybody tell me what the value is.
I haven't heard that either.
And they got a lot of good land around the airport that if somebody was to build on it, they wouldn't know whether or not it was the city of Flowood building or not. But the revenues would be coming to Jackson as far as sales tax would be concerned. So let's be concerned about trying to get it up off the ground rather than trying to hold somebody else back or hold somebody else down. That's how I see it.
Absolutely. And I'm just determined that we not always be looking for the state to come partner and help us, that we can be the state's partner on some things.
Right.
You know, it's an absolute honor to be the capital city.
Right. It's a duty too now.
That's where I was going. There is a huge responsibility because as goes Jackson, it reflects on the entire state of Mississippi, and we have to be willing to be proud of the honor, but accept the responsibility that goes with it. And instead of constantly looking for what the state can do for us, what if we start looking for where might we have common goals? Where can we help you?
That's right.
I'm not worried about curing all the ills of the past. I would just like for us to work with the state. Let's find 5 things we agree on and just demonstrate to everybody that we can go accomplish these 5 things.
Folks, we're talking with Rodney DePriest. Do you see why the Committee of 50, their support really doesn't make sense when you have somebody talk as much common sense as you hear coming from this man here? And again, the skill set to be a legislator is totally different than being a mayor. And if you're going to be honest with yourself, go with what works. Don't be emotional on this thing here. Now, you talking about developing the assets of Jackson. You know, we talked during the break about feeding the homeless. You know, one of the things when I would do as far as cleaning up the city of Jackson, one Saturday out of the month, they do this in the country of Rwanda, one Saturday out of the month, the whole country from, I think, like 7 in the morning to noontime, they clean up wherever they are. We start right here in Jackson. The first Saturday of your administration, we have a cleanup day. Just clean up your yard. Then next month, we'll get whatever stuff you had left in your yard that you couldn't get towed away. It's cheaper for us to pay that as a city to come get it and tow it away and increase the property values overall than to sit back and say somebody else has got to do it. It'd be cheaper for us to pay the dumping fees for the contractor to go out and dump it. But if we catch him dumping it illegally, we're going to take his car, his truck, and he's going to he's going to give work to the city with all his employees for a week. That'll get the message across, because what we're doing, we just constantly going out here and picking up behind people, and we're not training them not to throw things down. We gotta cultivate more adult attitudes, I think.
Well, and you know, when did we just lose the pride in our own front yard?
Hello.
And now we're more and more guilty of, well, we might cut the grass, but we're not going to get the leaves out of the curb.
Uh-huh.
And I had a friend of mine lives in Belhaven, and they had a big cleanup last fall, and he and they kind of coined the phrase of let's put the curb back in curb appeal.
So right.
Let's just clean the curb up. That's what he did. Mm-hmm. And then the neighbors on both sides of him noticed it. And then he noticed one wasn't getting it, so he went and cleaned theirs up.
That's right. And you know what? It's going to take that extra effort until people get embarrassed by having their yard being the worst one on the block. It's just something that we've gotten away from. But if with this generation don't teach these kids how to, if we don't rear them properly, they'll never know. And their kids will never know. We're just going to have a losing team.
Well, I'm a firm believer in the saying, but that which you see modeled, you'll repeat.
That's right.
And that's what's happening in Jackson right now. We have far too many young people. It's not their fault that they're repeating the actions that we don't agree with because it's been modeled to them for so long. Mm-hmm. And we have to model something better.
Right.
And I'm the first to say we get back on the violence part of it. It's not JPD's fault that we got the violence problem in Jackson.
That's right.
It's the failure of men in the community and the failure of the faith community in Jackson.
That's right.
For far too long, we have wanted people to come see us at church. And I love telling my friends at church and even other churches, if Jesus showed up in Jackson, he's not going to be in our sanctuary.
That's right.
So why don't we figure out where he would be, and let's go spend a little more time there.
It goes back to what you were speaking of earlier. I remember during graduation week, one of the gentlemen from the class of 49, at the end of his message, he told us to pull out our they gave you your diploma, and then they gave you a little pocket diploma. He said, pull out your diploma. Look at it. It says the rights, privileges, and responsibilities. He said, not everybody's diploma says that, but you have a responsibility. And that has always stuck with me, that everything ain't about your rights. You have a responsibility to make the world better and make the places where you are better. Make it where, I want another Morehouse, man. They ain't even got to see. All they got to see is that you graduated from Morehouse. I want that person. That's what we have to do. Jackson doesn't have to go the way of Memphis or New Orleans or Birmingham with the violence. We can break out and go in a different direction, but you got to be willing to try something different. Rodney, you're something different, and I commend you to the people of Jackson highly. I think you'll do a great job, brother.
Well, and there's just so much of this as far as what can we do ourselves?
Right.
What can we empower our youth to do themselves? And you were mentioning the diploma. Mm-hmm. Have you ever heard of what they refer to as the success sequence? Yeah. The success sequence is graduate from high school, get a full-time job, marry before you have children. Mm-hmm. You do those three things, and you have a 97% chance that you will not live in poverty.
Right.
97%. That is completely within the control of any young person in Jackson, and we need to be ingraining that in their mind. We need to be leading them and helping them get there. If they need help with getting that diploma, let's help them get it. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't take a program.
That's right.
That just takes some homeschooling.
That's right.
And taking care of things.
It takes us adults, us men and women, being on one accord. And that's one of the things that I saw being on the campaign trail, is that we really, as citizens of Jackson, we don't have an overarching goal. Everybody's got individual wish lists that they want to have done. I want my streets paved, I want my water clean, and all that's part of government. I agree. But I always believe that if we look out for our kids and their future, we're going to have the commonality that all of us can get around. And if you're looking out for the kids and their future, in order to finance it, you got to keep their property values up. That goes back to the cleaning of the streets. It's a simple formula, but there ain't no money in it like that, the way people have been making money off the various grants. And because now people are making money off, Rodney has gray hair. Rodney, I got a grant here for black dye. You want to get your hair dyed? I mean, that's how it's evolved to.
Oh, yeah.
And it's sad, but doesn't mean that we have to continue going along with this. It has only been the last 20, 30 years we got like this.
Well, and you talked it on the campaign trail. We have to start looking inward. What can we do? Mm-hmm. Where have we made the mistakes, and where have we blown it in the past that's gotten us where we are, and let's do our part to demonstrate that we know how to take care of this. And even back to the success sequence conversation, having people get out of poverty is not the ultimate goal. You want to aspire for more, but that's the first step towards the middle class, is get out of poverty. Mm-hmm. And that is completely within everybody's control.
Absolutely. Well, that success sequence should be stamped on the back of any document coming out of Jackson Public Schools. Anything they send home to the parents, any book or notebook or they hand out to the students should have that success form. They should see it from kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade. That's constantly seeing. Like you said, if it's repeated enough, it'll be ingrained in the mind. We just got to start doing the things that works. We've gotten away from it because everybody with a PhD wants to try their master thesis or their doctoral thesis out on these kids. And we just need to go back to the basics, which is what you're saying.
We have to. And we have to acknowledge that City Hall alone can't fix Jackson.
Right. That's right.
City Hall's going to have to get back to the basics. City Hall's going to get the foundation right. City Hall's going to have to provide the services that only City Hall can provide. But then neighbor by neighbor, street by street, neighborhood by neighborhood, we got to take pride in what's ours.
That's right.
And if Rodney Street doesn't need any help, well, I need to be willing to
We
go
can double
across
up on the
town
other,
and
yeah.
go help somewhere else.
That's right.
And I recently read a book, Fighting Shadows, and one of the quotes in it is that we have to move beyond the boundary of our own concern. And far too often, we just don't push past that boundary.
That's true.
And I've had conversations. I live in North Jackson. I've had conversations with some of my neighbors. You know, we've got, something happens on East Northside Drive. Well, everybody's in an uproar about
Right.
it. Well, when you start thinking about it, well, why is it happening there? It's because we didn't care enough when it happened on West Northside Drive.
That's right.
So we got to move beyond the boundary of our own concern.
All right. We're going to take a quick break here. All right. The final few minutes of the Kim Wade Show with Rodney DePriest, DePriestForMayor.com. You've heard him a bit here this afternoon. I commend him to you highly. We want to stabilize Jackson. We want to get people to calm down, and he'll bring a calming effect. And to all you folks in the business community, hey, now you the one said you want John. Go with John. That's what you want to do. He done told you. Go look at the Clarion Ledger article. That's what I would ask you to do. Tell me the difference between what he's saying and what Chokwe's saying. Other than the anger, what's the difference? All right, Rodney, I'll let you have the last 2 minutes, brother.
Thank you, Kim. Election Day's Tuesday. I can't believe it's here. And I do. I encourage everybody just to consider, what does it take to lead a city like Jackson? And I'm far from the perfect guy. I don't have all the answers. But through my work with the community and understanding better and better the needs of our young people, that's what's just nudged me on into this. And through the business experience, the education, through the experience with the city of Clinton, the fact that, I've had the opportunity to see municipal government done well. I understand the relationship between a mayor and a council, and that you aren't going to always agree, but you don't have to be disagreeable.
Right.
And there's just so much there. And if we genuinely I only want to be part of something that's sustainable. And if we're going to be the results are going to be sustainable, we're going to have to expand the circle some. We're going to have to be sure. I know Rodney's perspective on any one issue can only get so much of it, and we've got to be sure that we've got some different life experiences, some different perspectives there. Now, those that are part of that conversation, they got to be looking for a solution. They can't be part of just trying to throw the rocks and tear it up. But we have to do that, because through bringing together, through looking at the holistically at the issues we have, we're going to find the right solutions. We're going to get there. And Reverend Jeffrey Brown out of Boston that I mentioned earlier, he one of his quotes he frequently uses is, those closest to the pain often best know the solution. And we are so guilty of, from a distance, looking, assessing, and trying to go fix somebody else. And I'm just determined that, we're going to be leaders. We have to lead in this thing. But why don't we have those hard conversations? Why don't we have those uncomfortable conversations?
Rodney DePriestForMayor.com. This is a job for White Boy Bob. Gonna take a break. Be back in 22 hours. See you on the radio. Peace.